And because of 9/11, the terrorist nature of Al-Qaeda is not questioned anymore.
Dr. Rosenau, that is an interesting point raised there by Dr. Deflem, and that is perhaps international terrorist organizations being far easier to define. But where does that leave Spain, for example? It wants ETA designated very much as a terrorist organization. Also, we're talking about other localized groups, if you like, Chechnya, Kashmir, and also the Palestinian issue. What happens to countries that want those groups added to a terrorist list, as certainly Israel does and has had its way, and as Russia has done and has had its way too? Where does the line get drawn in order to have an effective list?
Well, you again hit on an excellent point and the real rub here, and that's essentially our list. When we're talking about our list, we mean, and we're talking about organizations, the Foreign Terrorist Organization list is prepared by the Secretary of State in conjunction with the Attorney General. It is essentially a legal document because it has to stand up in court, because people will come in and say, you've labeled my group as being a terrorist organization, I'm not. So it's got to be an airtight thing, but we do this on a case-by-case basis. It's a political decision on the part of the United States. The Provisional IRA was never designated as a terrorist organization. Why? Because the British government came to us and said, look, we're in the middle of a peace process. We don't want you to designate them. That's going to push them away. We need them to behave better, and we don't think being designated as a terrorist group does it. You know, and so I think it's always going to be a political decision on our part or on the part of anyone who designates, because we have a wider web of relationships that are based on things other than just terrorism. Now, as far as ETA goes, ETA kind of meets the international threshold because ETA operatives have been in Mexico. They've gone into France. They've certainly operated beyond the confines of Spanish territory. So I think you could safely say that they're international. It might be a little bit, it might be pushing the envelope a little bit, but ETA clearly is operated beyond Spain proper.
Dr. Deflem, if I could put this point to you too, there are those who say that the whole issue can be used really as a form of political currency, and I know that there was criticism of the US saying, well, yeah, the Chechen rebels are engaged in terrorist activity, and the cynics said that, well, that was in return for Russia supporting elements of US foreign policy on terrorism. The dangers of this list, or this so-called list, being used to achieve the goals of countries like the United States and Russia and others.
Right, and also what you have happen, and I think it is happening, you know, because the Batasuna, the ETA, is now a designated foreign terrorist organization by the United States, you know, with strong, let's say, appeal from the Spanish Prime Minister, and obviously the fact that Spain has so openly and so clearly supported the United States in the war against Iraq, that is, you know, it is used, let's say, as leverage to get something approved. So what you have is, well, I don't want to be too cynical about it, but it seems to me that there are at least indications that some of the more concrete cooperation agreements between nations surrounding terrorism kind of use terrorism as a means of bargain, you know, like a currency to achieve certain local national interests. Now, in the United States, you should actually know that the list of designated foreign terrorist organizations by the Secretary of State, there must be there's a number of characteristics that those organizations have to let's say, conform by. One is that they have to be foreign, they have to be engaged in terrorist activities, but also they must pose a threat to United States nationals or U.S. security in general. But you see, that must be very broadly defined if you also put Spanish, Czech and rebel groups and so on there on. So because then United States security interests would actually be some kind of global phenomenon. Like it would also apply, you could say, to some befriended nations like Israel and so forth. But again, so you clearly see that at a bilateral level, certain things can be accomplished. Now, to what extent that it is all effective in the, in the fight against terrorist groups, that all remains a different matter.
Some fascinating points. Gentlemen, thanks very much. Dr. Mathieu Deflem of University of South Carolina and Dr. Bill Rosenau from Rand Associates, political scientist. Thanks so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is Q&A for today. We'll have more news in a moment.